Hello and welcome back to another Talk Wargaming tutorial. In this video I'll be showing you how to paint one of the pre-Heresy Space Marines in the colours of the Ultramarines. So the miniature that we'll be painting is a Mark IV Power Armoured Space Marine from the Betrayal at Calth box set, and I'll be showing you how to paint it in this battle damage style. So here we have the Ultramarine, who has been spray painted with the Army Painter's Ultramarine Blue Spray Primer. If you can get your hands on the Macragge Blue Spray Primer from Games Workshop, you could use that as well. Alternatively, if you don't actually have access to a spray primer, you could spray it white and use Macragge Blue and paint it all over the armour. Now, as you can see here, I've kept the arm and the bolter separate, as it makes painting the body a lot easier. Now, the first step that we're actually going to be using to paint this miniature is to wash Drakenhof Nightshade across the entirety of the power armour. So now that we've got a good start to the shading, we can now move on to the highlights. And for this I'll be using Calgar Blue. Now I'll be running this along the edges of the power armour, and I'll be mixing that with a small amount of Lamium Medium, and this will give me a much better flow and allow me to get a much finer edge across the armour. The next step is to apply some wear and tear onto the power armour, and for this we'll be using Fimrizian Grey. Now what we're doing is focusing on the areas which kind of, at the top areas and areas which would receive wear and tear, such as the knee joints, the feet, the tops of the shoulder pads, the helmet, things like that, things that get scuffed in general kind of combat. And we're applying short vertical lines to the top to represent scratches. So now that the armour is complete, we can now start work on the details, and we're painting these with a Baden Black. Now the areas that you want to paint will include the gaps in between the armour, such as behind the knees there, any pouches that you've got across the miniature, such as these there, the pipes on the power pack at the back, and also the weapon stock on the bolter as well. Now that the black areas have been painted, we can now start with some highlights, and for this we'll be using Dawnstone, and we'll be highlighting along the edges of the black area, similar to the way we did with the first highlight on the armour. For our next step, we want to continue with the black highlights, and for this we'll be using Administratum Grey. Now we're painting this onto the very corners of the black areas, mainly on the top, such as this corner here and then the top corner as well. The next areas that we'll be painting will be the lenses in the helmet, and for this we'll be basing them with Corn Red. I will now be washing the lenses with Carroburg Crimson. The next step for painting the lenses is to apply a small line of Evil Sun Scarlet to the bottom edge of the lens. The final step for painting the lenses is to apply a small dot of ceramide white into the top centre of the lenses. The next step is to paint all of the metal areas across the miniature, including the harness on the chest there and also some of the detailing on the helmet as well. And not forgetting the detailing on the bolter as well, such as the ammo cartridge and also the metal finishes just on there. And we'll be painting these with lead belcher. So now that the first coat on the metal areas is complete, we'll now be washing over the metal with Nuln oil. Continuing with the metal, we'll now be highlighting Iron Breaker along the edges of the metal areas. So now that the metal areas are complete, we can now start working on the gold trim on the shoulder pads, and for this we'll be base coating them with Hashut copper. As we've done with the previous colours, we'll now be washing the gold areas with Agrax Earthshade. The final step for painting the Space Marine is to highlight the gold areas with Gehenna's Gold. So here we have the completed miniature, and I've added it to the base, so the only thing that's left to do is to apply some transfers or freehand paint the Ultramarines logo onto his right shoulder. If you enjoyed this tutorial and would like me to cover more of the Heresy era Space Marines, then let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to get around to doing them. So until next time, thanks for watching and goodbye.